So then we are back with the modern understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yeshayahu the prophet, we find a layer of understanding of the 61st chapter, where then you find the spring feast, autumn feast, and also the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries, where then the holy cities obviously are returning, and the first holy city on the land of Cush, per the original manuscripts of the Israelic lineage, where then the Greco-Roman translation obviously scandalized. They were ignorant when they were translating the holy documents, and they did not know how to translate them. However, we find ourselves then studying the inclusion of the Gentiles in a plan of the restoration period, where then obviously the trade of the world must change, and then during the time of the 1,000 years of deceit, then the world is going through a transition from the time of deceit back into the time of precision. So then Ezekiel 37th chapter then can be obviously completed. A stick of authority of the Ishmaelites and also the stick of authority of the Israelites. So then obviously later then comes the autumn feast. During this time then we find ourselves then having trouble with the United States, trying then to extend itself once again, trying to make slavery out of this world through an USD system that no longer works. United States is truly bankrupt, and then the world is going through lots of changes during the time of the 1,000 years of deceit back into the time of precision, where China must lead the world's market. We find these very obviously posted, because if they make a calculation of the number of containers then obviously transported each year, China is truly the first. The United States is then obviously bankrupt. Then during this time it is very important to understand the fact of the Dragon Mart already in Dubai and then also in Cancun. There are many countries going through lots of changes, and most of them are not for the positive, where then rather than expanding their trades, people and nations, they are trying to get a hold of the old junkies, and it's not going to work, because the instructions given then they are very specific regarding then the giving of the stick of authority to the Ishmaelites. And China was chosen then to lead at least this first section of the time of the restoration period regarding then the Ishmaelites' stick of authority. How do we find this? You find in the 37th chapter of Ezekiel, where you have to understand the two sons of Ibrahim. One of them obviously was the king Ishmael, started then trade, and then the second is Yitzhak, started then tabernacling. We find then nations very important, such as then Australia, going through lots of changes also in their government. They are very kind people. They do care for others coming to the country, and also they are making many deals in many other areas other than Australia, then having those people from the outside of Australia searching for asylum, and then sometimes they have not enough economics to get the situation resolved, but they are going beyond their calculation and their budget to get those people then taken care of. But the problem is they do not have either much economics to get the situation resolved. So they are promising lots of money in PNG and then Nauru and many other parts of Australia, where there are so many people searching for jobs, and the economy won't hold for very long. United States is bankrupt. They have absolutely no choice. And then we find ourselves then also in Brazil trying to find ways of improving our economics, because the inflation is also increasing, though it has stabilized for a moment. But then because of the printing money festival, as then led by the United States, the most bankrupt country in this planet, and then mesmerizing Australia, mesmerizing then Japan. Japan is also bankrupt. So the United States is the plague of this planet, trying to mesmerize the nations to go ahead and printing money rather than investing in the Chinese market, the Asian market, and being responsible. And then we find the Dragon Mart already then in Cancun, Mexico, and also in Dubai, in Arabia, where then these sections of the economy must be worldwide. In Brazil, for instance, the largest port, as we understand, with most of land available yet near it, Paranaguá in Paraná would be the best place then for the Dragon Mart, because there is a lots of land around, very nice and flat, and also the roads can take care of the demand of these growth of trade. Because if we analyze then the list of the most important ports and trade, you find China obviously always the first, but then you find Brazil the 43rd with a very low trade practices, and then the investment in Dragon Mart would obviously make lots of growth in our economy. Once then we understand, unfortunately, Brazil has taken the bad example of the United States. Rather than joining up with the Asian market, Brazil has made the deadly decision of going after the mesmerization of US, where then US is bankrupt, and they are bankrupting the other countries of this world. But the Asian market must prevail. China must be number one, and they will. The next 29 months, we will observe then the nation of the United States then retrieving from the world, and obviously breaking the USD, where there are other options of monetary systems such as the Bitcoin. Nations can get around of the USD scheme, enslaving, and then try other means of receiving products from the world. But Dragon Mart is extremely important, having, for instance, in South Atlantic, South Pacific, and also in India, South Africa, and also Canada. So then the trade of the world can be lined up with the Asian market and no longer being enslaved by the United States. Then we find ourselves then studying further than Daniel and Bel and the dragon, and understand what it truly means in the spirit. Precision versus then the old junkies, Balian system, confusion. If you don't understand what Bel is and what it comes from, Babylonian means confusion. It's a system of Babel, it's confusion. Dragon means precision. So you find then Daniel then explaining the system of precision versus the system of confusion. This is what it means. This is precisely what the world is going through. The system of confusion of the United States trying to take over the system of precision. It can't be done. The United States is a system of confusion. They are not growing. They are absolutely bankrupt, and they are trying to bankrupt the rest of the world. The United States is a system of confusion. And China is a system of precision. And precision always wins. So let's observe then very intently the importance and evaluation of Dragon Marts around the world, where then we find ourselves obviously wanting more trade with the Asian market, and then joining up with Mexico, because they already have Dragon Mart. It's more than 30% already built. So then the trade can continue on via precision, and China is the number one. There is no United States number one anymore. The United States is the 16th. How can you say the first economy of the world? They are bankrupt. They are a system of enslaving the other nations. Thus we understand then the dragon and Balian system in the United States. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.